Welcome to the May 2024 committee meetings of Dubbo Regional Council. I advise the council is now web streaming its standing committees and council meetings live to the internet, and as such, all those present should refrain from making any defamatory statements. Your attendance at this meeting is your acceptance of the condition that your image may be recorded and streamed to the internet, as well as being retained in the archive of the recorded council meetings and standing committee meetings. I now open the May 2024 Infrastructure, Planning and Environment Committee meeting, the time being 5:30 p.m. IPC 24/4 Acknowledgement of Country, Councillor Goff.
Thank you. I'd like to acknowledge the Wiradjuri people who are the traditional custodians of the land. I would also like to pay respect to elders past, present and emerging of the Wiradjuri Nation and extend that respect to other Aboriginal peoples from other nations who are present.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. IPC 24/25, leave of absence. We do have an apology from Councillor Mann. It's noted that the Mayor, Councillor Matthew Dickerson, is attending via audio-visual link. Can I have somebody move the acceptance of leave of absence from Councillor Mann? Councillor Chowdhury, second Councillor Goff. Any questions or debate? All those in favour? Against? And carried. Yeah. IPC 24/26, conflict of interest. Anyone have any conflicts of interest to declare for the infrastructure planning meeting? No. Moving right along. IPC 24/27, building summary, April 2024. Please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Director of Development and Environment. Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Second, Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Ivey, would you like to speak to that motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, just a question or a couple of questions, actually. I notice in the building summary that the total number of dwellings and the dollar value of those dwellings approved during April is down considerably compared to last year. The question is my observation correct? Is that not just a temporary glitch or anything, that the actual trend is down? And secondly, is that of concern that the numbers of building approvals, residential approvals, is down? We're supposed to be in a time of housing crisis and a housing shortage. How come it's down?
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Through you, Mr. CEO.
Thank you. I would confirm the numbers are indicating that dwellings are down, probably more so for single dwellings than other dwellings. I think the projection was for a record year. That's coming back to a pretty good year as opposed to a record year. Single dwellings are certainly down, but we're seeing an uptick for the first time probably for what we call other dwellings, so the higher density dwellings, which is a good sign in itself. That the city is adapting to that change, which has been requested of us. But overall, yes, at the moment we're projecting slower numbers, certainly for single dwellings. We do have some applications in the assessment for your seniors type housing and some higher densities. But I think overall, if one of those gets approved, it might skew the numbers to look as though overall dwellings are doing strongly. But certainly with the builders I'm talking to, with the numbers I'm seeing, your dwellings for mums and dads are trending downwards. Reasoning for that, I think that's what economists are paid for. But what I'm tending to be hearing is that it probably comes back to the availability and the cost of finance.
Any other further questions or debate? Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just make a comment, like there was a medical center happening in Macquarie Street. It's really good to see like a medical center, and in our community really need doctors. So through you, Mr. Chair, is there any time frame when that medical center be built in or opening? Thank you.
Thank you.
That application is a medical centre. It's actually for Marathon Health. So in terms of timeframe, that is a market decision. So we perform the assessment, and that really is up to the developers to plan that space. But I know Marathon Health have been liaising with various parts of council for quite some time, looking for sites. So I would anticipate they'd be pretty keen to plan that space sooner rather than later. But I'm completely reading into that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Any other questions or debate regarding that item? Councillor Councillor Ivey, you do have a right to reply. No problems. Put that motion. All those in favour? And against? And carried. Thank you. IPEC 24/28 is the Draft Infrastructure Contributions Plan, Northwest Urban Release Area. Please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Manager Growth Planning. Councillor Ivey. Okay. Seconded by Councillor Goff. Councillor Ivey, you want to speak to that motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, a question and perhaps some clarification. I notice on page 32, which is the executive summary of that report, the table there details the total capital cost of that development at in the various components of $102 million in total. Can I just seek some clarification or some explanation of what the increase in the cap means to the funding of that total requirement? Are we looking at a shortfall even on with an increase in the contributions cap? Are we still looking at a shortfall to fund that total capital development? And if so, how? What are the implications of that?
Councillor Ivey, through you, Mr. CEO.
Mr. Wallace.
I think the proposal before us is to seek a maximum, or to seek an increase of contributions to a maximum of $20,000. So we can't. The government doesn't allow us to go beyond that $20,000 cap. So if that's the case, and this is accepted by council and adopted, we would have a shortfall in that situation. So what we are proposing within this report is to apply to the state government to seek an extension beyond $20,000 into that maximum $30,000 range, which we do not intend to apply in its full. But there are two situations where you have lots greater than 250 metres squared and dwellings with 3 bedrooms where we would apply in those situations. The maximum proposed in the first year would be $22,800 odd, $857.50. That would be the maximum in those two situations. Every other situation would be under the $20,000 limit. Now, if we were to adopt that, we are projecting that the schedule of works of $102 million would be met in full in terms of a desktop study. In reality, that may be different in time, and we would monitor that. But the plans are best laid plans mean that the aim is to fully recoup that, and then additionally to play in the space of getting grant funding to lessen the blow of the contributions we do need to gather overall. And that would be a period of about 15 years as the initial plan. But again, we review these contribution plans as we go along.
Thank you.
Any further questions, Councillor Ivey, before we head to Councillor Dickerson? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just in relation to that particular item that Councillor Ivey was asking about, Mr. Wallace was talking about, I'm in City at the moment. The reason I'm not there at the meeting is I've been at a Regional Cities New South Wales meeting today, and yesterday we had some discussions and meetings with some various ministers, and we've got 15 cities in regional cities, and that topic with the cap that was brought up by Mr. Wallace then was certainly raised yesterday in some of the discussions we had with a couple of the ministers, and today we actually met with the Senate Committee into sustainability, financial sustainability for local government, and that issue was brought up again. So it's certainly an issue that's being felt across the state. It's certainly an issue for Dubbo, potential issue for Dubbo there, but it's an issue that's being felt by a number of councils around the state as well. So hopefully if we do go forward with this and put some submission in, there'll be other councils around the state doing something similar to try and get that changed.
Thank you, Councillor Dickerson. Just clarification, the Legislative Committee you met with today? Legislative Council?
Legislative Council, correct. Thank you. So there were 4 of the 5 members that we met with today from that, and that was the review into financial sustainability for local government.
Thank you, Councillor Dickerson. Any other comments, questions? Councillor Black.
Thank you, Chair. Look, having looked through this, I'd be more happy with a slightly higher rate that would guarantee 100% cost recovery for the all of the projected infrastructure rather than a 10 million or so shortfall. And then we've also got we know our prices are going up greater than the rate of inflation, given that the $22,857 on a 3-bedroom housing block would just go up at the rate of inflation. So I'll be interested to see what comes back from the consultation. But basically, if big developers are having to contribute a bit more so that ratepayers, i.e. the council, aren't, then I would be happy with that. And given that developers simply can't charge more than what the market is, so yeah, they can tack a bit extra on the blocks, but if it's too dear and above market rate, then they're simply not going to sell. That's just the reality of it. But yeah, I'd be happy to see a bit more so that ratepayers aren't having a $10 million shortfall. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Any other further comments or debate regarding that item? No. Councillor Ivey, you have a right of reply? Anything to say?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just picking up on a couple of things that Councillor Black said, and perhaps Mr. Wallace too, that look, as we understand with this Northwest development, it is really going to be a fantastic development. There's some really good aspects to that development of green space and public access and cycleways and wider roads and more trees and look, which is absolutely to be encouraged. And if that means that those contribution caps have got to be increased a little bit and as paid for effectively by the purchasers of those blocks, then surely that should be encouraged. And one would hope that the purchasers would realise the extra benefit and utility and amenity they're getting, and therefore that extra bit of above the cap is really not a significant amount at all.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. We'll put that motion. All those in favour? Thank you. And against? And carried. Thank you all. Next item is IPEC 24/29 Draft Planning Agreement, Dubbo Firming Power Station. Can I please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Manager of Growth Planning? Councillor Ivey, second Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Look, this is another example of some terrific development going on within our LGA, connected with the move towards renewables. This, as I understand it, is the firming plant is enabling some of the peaks and troughs of the generation of electricity to be smoothed out. I don't absolutely fully understand the project, but as I understand it, again, it's to be developed in an industrial area. It's a fairly kind of small area by in terms of the number of square metres that is occupying, or hectares that is occupying. Perhaps I might just ask through you, Mr. Chair, for staff, am I right in saying that really the impact on the community as such is not significant? It's not like a solar farm or a wind farm. It is particularly confined, and therefore, and I'm asking that in the light of the proposed voluntary payment, that voluntary payment then perhaps does recognise or represent reasonable value to the community.
Thanks, Councillor Ivey. And maybe just through you, Mr. CEO, just adding to that, just a bit of clarification maybe with regards to the project itself. Councillor Ivey just made a point there that not necessarily understanding in full the details of the project, maybe a bit of a high-level overview on the project itself, if we can.
I might have first go and then I might throw to the planning team. The firming power station will have an electrolyser to split water into hydrogen, and then there'll be a gas-fired turbine that will be, in effect, a shandy of hydrogen. Now, original proposal was hydrogen, natural gas, hydrogen, and another form of gas. So that's the firming. So they use cheap renewable energy. So when you have to pay to put it on the grid, they'll use it when it's very cheap, split apart the water, then they've got the fuel there sitting there to drive the gas-fired turbine. It's in a heavy industrial precinct, so that's what that type of industry is for. So it's in the right place. It's not an added impost. So I personally think that the team of council's professionals have done really well to get a planning agreement of this scale out of such a project. It's not normally the case for an industrial project like this, but I'll throw to Mr. Wallace for further.
That's a very good explanation. I don't think I'll add to that. And again, I think you're on the money in terms of assessing the impact. It's a relatively small footprint. It's not an offensive type of development that would impact the amenity of the area. It's a 64 gigawatt firming station. Megawatt, I beg your pardon, a big difference there. Valued at $190 million, but the infrastructure that it needs to access pretty much goes by the site. So thus why I understand the project is based where it is. So across the road, we've got the Essential Energy substation, which it will feed into and provide that energy generated back into the energy market. It's got access to water, which goes past the front of the property, and access to main gas lines as well. So substantially the infrastructure is in place, and apart from that, it's an industrial style development that's really occurring with a relatively small footprint and impact.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Any other further questions or comments regarding that item? Councillor Ivey?
Sorry, but thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have in some ways, a follow-up question or a follow-up issue. So the voluntary planning agreement, which has been negotiated in that case, looks quite attractive. We out of that will get a proposed $950,000 upfront payment on the commencement of the project. But I note where that is to be direct, that $950,000, which is a one-up upfront payment, is to be directed towards a public art strategy. I wondered why or how that decision came about. As I understand it, within the council, we are aware of a number of projects coming on stream that will contribute community benefit funds, and that therefore there is a need. There will be a need for some sort of overarching committee to coordinate and look at community benefit projects being proposed to use some of this money. I just wondered why or how it suddenly came about to put to this council that money be directed towards a public art strategy. I'm not saying it's not the right thing to do. It may well be a the best thing for the allocation of those monies, but I'm just interested in how the decision came about that that's what would happen.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Through you, Mr. CEO.
I'll start first if I may, Mr. Chair. Certainly in discussions staff have when proponents are talking about, and again, I'll reiterate that I think staff have done well to actually come up with a planning agreement and have that agreed at the outset. So irrespective of where it goes, I think this should be considered as a bonus. So well done to the staff. But in that discussion with staff to get to this planning agreement sum, it was put forward, here are the strategies that currently aren't funded by council. So as you know, we have a public arts strategy. We do not have an allocation in budget previously, nor have we got a budget allocated them forward 4-year budget proposed in the draft budget, and some other strategies as well. So in that discussion about here's strategies of council, here's where we have funding, it is different to the projects where we have that focus on economic activity for Wellington, because the projects are largely in the eastern end of the LGA. So necessarily we have those planning agreements in discussion with community and council laws that are focused on outcomes in that area. This one being a heavy industrial precinct in Dubbo allowed that more flexibility in terms of what it could go to, and with that focus on strategies of council adopted through consultation with community that aren't funded through council budgets at the moment. So that's the logic and how that, I guess, evolved to come to what's in front of you today. But I might throw to either Mr. Wallace or Mr. Howlett for further. Mr. Howlett.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. As the CEO said, staff and Squadron Energy did have some robust discussions around what potential funding could be applied to, and we both had the view that the public art strategy is a good community outcome, and we were both happy to put it in front of you for consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Howlett. Ms. Councillor Ivey,
Just
something
a
further?
follow-up question. So has there been any thought given to what might constitute a public art strategy? I mean, are we talking about murals at the old Dubbo jail? Are we talking about painting the silos, or have there been no ideas at this stage put forward?
Just through you, Mr. CEO, for that one.
I'll throw to Ms. Jess Moore, if I could, who's in our cultural area.
Thank you. So there haven't been any formal plans, even internally discussed yet, about what projects or types of works will be funded. Once this process is agreed to, we will have further consultation with Squadron around what they are interested in, align that with the priorities that have already been allocated in our public art strategy, and try to find opportunities where those two things cross over. We'll then produce a report that will come back to council about what our plan is, so that council and community can have a say in that.
Satisfied with that, Councillor Ivey? Very good, thank you. Any other further comments or questions? Councillor Black.
Thank you. Just have a quick amendment that reads that any monetary contribution from the planning agreement be spent within a 15 kilometre radius of the project.
So that'll just be an addition to .5. Okay, so 0.5. So we got that. Can you just repeat that for me again, Councillor Black, please?
Point 5, that any monetary contribution from the planning agreement be spent within a 15 kilometre radius of the project.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Black. I need a seconder for that. Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Black, might get you to speak to that amendment, please.
Yeah, thank you. Just very briefly, just being in line with other planning agreements for similar type renewable projects, not this as a renewable necessarily, but spend the money in the local area. That's what we're seeing out of other projects. So just keep it in line with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Any other further comments or debate regarding that amendment? Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fully supporting this amendment, and also I would like to say this $950,000 going to use for public art strategy, because there's a lot of art groups in our creative groups in our this region, but they always are seeking a lot of fund, and I think this fund will give them more opportunity to produce some good mural and good art production within our region, and I hope that will attract a lot of tourists. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Goff.
I can't support this amendment. I deem this to be slightly different from all the other voluntary planning agreements with the projects around Wellington, where this one, where the money's going to a strategy that we don't even know what's happening yet. And I would hate for Wellington to be excluded from an art strategy for the whole LGA if we're just putting a 15 kilometre radius on it.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Councillor Ivey, and come to you after Councillor Ivey. Councillor Dickinson after that. Councillor Ivey first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would vote against it, as I think for the reasons that both Councillor Black and Councillor Chowdhury advanced within their proposing the motion. They both acknowledge that it's a different sort of project. It's perhaps not even really a renewables project. This project doesn't have effect on locals, which the development of a wind farm or a solar farm has specific impact on a local community. This, as we've described before, doesn't have that impact. It's relatively or no impact. It's within a heavy industrial area. And to support Councillor Chowdhury's comments that if some of this money, say $50,000, go towards Year 12 art development or whatever it is, why on earth should that be restricted to a 15-kilometre radius? Surely people or schools within a 16-kilometre distance of the area should be just as entitled to receive some of this benefit that someone within that radius. So I think that, as you say, as Councillor Black said, it's a different sort of project. Therefore, the criteria applying to those other projects don't apply to this one.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Councillor Dickinson.
More a point of clarification, please, Mr. Chair, and whether yourself or the staff or through to Councillor Black, the 15-kilometre radius, and I might even just get to reread it out, but the 15-kilometre radius, I'm intrigued whether that would apply to where that public art strategy might be utilised, or, for example, where those artists may come from. So, for example, would it mean that any public art could only go within that 15-kilometre radius, but the artists could come from anywhere, or would it mean that the artists that were actually being utilised for our public art strategy would have to come within a 15-kilometre radius, but the art could go anywhere in our LGA? So just that point of clarification, please, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Dickerson. Councillor Black, I might come to you if you're happy to provide a bit of clarity around that.
Yeah, thank you. The artists could come from anywhere, but this is about the art, the money from the art. If we're going to install a piece of art or something like that, being within a 15k radius, which should be out to, I think, basically Wongarbin and all around Dubbo. Ta.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Councillor Dickerson, that provided that clarity you're after?
Thank you. And could you just read if you've got the amendment there of Councillor Black's got the amendment there, could you just reread that, please?
Yes, certainly, Councillor Black.
That any monetary contribution from the planning agreement be spent within a 15-kilometre radius of the project.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Councillor Dickerson. Any other questions or comments, Councillor Chowdhury?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question because I believe like a Dubbo Regional Council already done that public art strategy, and within that strategy, Wellington already included, isn't it?
That is correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm supporting this motion to Councillor Black because just we want to see something happening with Dubbo. That's why I'm supporting Councillor Black. Yeah.
Sure. Thanks, Councillor Chowdhury. To you again, Councillor Black.
Thank you. So, in committee, we can make comments, more than one comment.
Not quite free range, but close enough.
Thanks for your indulgence. So, basically, Councillor Ivey said there wouldn't be an impact, but there is going to be an impact. There's going to be pollution. There'll be light pollution from burning of fossil fuel and light pollution. But it's interesting that we're all one LGA, except when it comes to spending any of Wellington's renewables money up in Dubbo. It's all right to put a radius on that and say, no, we're keeping all that, Gollum-like, but try and do something sort of half similar up in Dubbo, and it's up in arms. So you can't have it both ways, I don't feel. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Black. Councillor Wells.
A question, please, for my colleague, Councillor Black. I wonder whether you would consider actually saying that the artists need to be from this area. There's been a lot of things happen over time where artists have been commissioned for certain pieces of work and they've come from outside the LGA, and I'd much prefer to see that we are looking after our own community and our own arts.
So, Councillor Wells, is that more of a suggestion of an amendment to that amendment?
I don't know.
Or
More of a question to my colleague.
Councillor Black.
Thank you. With a preference for local artists or living within the LGA.
Thanks, Councillor Black. Just over to Mr. CEO for a moment.
So we do have the local purchasing policy, so that would apply if you're purchasing the works, as in someone to do the work. So that would automatically apply there. So I don't think, I don't have that percentage with me. So there's already a discount for a local artist should we be comparing. But if through the chair, I might pass on to the I guess the thoughts of the public art strategy and how that would apply in terms of selecting artists and what have you. If I can throw them as more.
There is a priority both in statement and intent through the public art strategy to prioritise local artists as the first point of contact when creating a work. So through the creation of the Public Art Advisory Panel, they will help advise and guide the preference in terms of scope, types of artists that we engage, where they're from. But it was very clearly and very strongly held feedback from the community that the public art strategy should support opportunities for local artists as a priority, and that has been factored into the public art strategy. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Moore. Just a further question then from myself then through Mr. CEO, just with respect to that public art strategy, does any particular document differentiate the needs of public art between Dubbo or Wellington or any other individual parts of the LGA?
It doesn't sort of as a overarching document, it doesn't. The document does include 8 priority strategies for where it recommends work should go first. And there are some priorities specific to Dubbo and some priorities specific to Wellington. So they are not separated as a total strategy, but rather priority projects have been indicated as, so for example, Wellington, a CBD trail of art, Dubbo, things along the river. So it doesn't exclude other projects from happening. It just is highlighted where community and stakeholders have identified as being their priority areas for focus for works.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Any other questions, comments, or debate on the amendment itself? No? Well, we put the amendment. All those in favour?
Just a point of order, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Councillor Dickerson. Yes.
The original mover of the motion still has the right of reply to the amendment.
Okay. Of the amendment. What do you the original. Okay. Noted, Councillor Dickerson. Thank you. Right of reply, Councillor Ivey, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just again like to pick up on the point that Councillor Black just said, that we've got one rule for Wellington and one for Dubbo. Categorically, in this case, reject that. As I say, the impact of this particular development is nothing compared to the impact of a solar farm or transmission lines or a wind farm, or as I say, what causes the disruption to the community. This, in fact, in many ways, I think people might even say enhances the community. So I think to say that it has impact because it's burning fossil fuels, I'm not quite sure of the logic of that, or that it's got light pollution, I'm not quite sure of that either. But that, I don't think, are reasons to say that this project is in the same category as the other renewables which I just mentioned. So that's why I would vote against this amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. And on that note, we will put the amendment. All those in favour? And against? And I can just cast a vote there.
You've got to vote.
Yeah.
We haven't seen your hands.
So do I put my hand up?
Please.
Councillors, I'll go back again. All those in favour of the amendment, and I'll raise it now. Thank you. And against? And carried the amendment. Thank you. No, we don't have to go back and vote on that. That's anyway. So
No, so that was
the amendment.
That was the amendment.
That becomes the motion.
To the motion. Now you've got to vote on the motion.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So the amendment becomes the motion now with that 0.5 added. Now we don't have to call for comments on that. Okay. So there's nothing further. We go back to the original mover to ask question.
No, it's the end question.
Okay. So we'll call on comments even after that now. Okay. So the amendment becomes the motion. Any comment or debate regarding the amendment, which is now the motion? Councillor Black.
Thank you. Just a question for you, Mr. Chair. Can we get some sort of clarity on light pollution from gas burning power stations such as this, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Through you, Mr. CEO.
We're not the approval authority, so we wouldn't have done the analysis. But there's no flame to that point. It'd be the normal industrial type lighting you'd have, and I might throw to Mr. Wallace in the first instance.
And I would literally echo what you just said. We really haven't played in that space to give that sort of answer in any strong manner. Knowing what I think the project is about, I would anticipate it would have your standard lights of an industrial project, as opposed to anything significant like anything that would be burning, for example, that would create additional light. Maybe I'd throw into that it's potentially a 24-hour operation, and there would be lights associated with that. So, but it's conjecture from me, because we literally are focusing on the planning agreement, not on the project, which is assessed by the state government.
Thank you, Mr. Wallace. Any further comments or questions regarding the motion put before you, Councillor Black?
Just a quick comment that it is possible to do a quick Google search to look at the impacts widespread around the world of nighttime burning of the gas and on light pollution. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Any other further comments or debate regarding that item? Councillor Ivey is the original mover of that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would have supported the original motion, but now I can't support it with that the amended motion. So for the reasons that I've already outlined.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. I have before you that amended motion now, which has become obviously the motion there. All those in favour? And against? And carried. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Dickerson. Got that. Okay, IPEC 24/30 is a curbside bin audit report. Please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Waste Contract and Collection Coordinator. Councillor Black, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Wells. Councillor Black.
Oh, just very briefly, very interesting comprehensive report. It's great to see the bin audit snapshot by weight of what goes into the 3 bins around Dubbo, and anything that can be done for people to get the stuff in the right bins will help reduce council costs and also be better for the environment overall. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Now, further comments or questions regarding that? Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, Mr. Chair, there was a general waste bin has a 59% contamination. Can get a staff to a little bit clarify, and if that contamination affecting us, is there any education plan for the community?
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury. Through you, Mr. CEO.
Yep, I'll pass to Mr. Lobb.
Through you, Mr. Chair. So that's correct. 59% diversion for the mixed waste bin at the moment, as it stands with the current audit that's been conducted. Of that 59%, 38% of material could be placed into the green FOGO bins, and the remainder can be placed into the yellow commingled recycling bins.
Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury.
So is there any educational plan for the community through council?
Educational plan. Through you, Mr. CEO.
Mr. Lobb.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Currently, we do have a resource recovery education officer, which is a resource split between 3 councils: Dubbo Regional Council, Mid-Western Council, and Narromine Shire. That officer is already working in the space of further education for community, spends a lot of time in schools conducting education programs. We've recently adopted a Get Grubby program, which in essence allows schools, businesses and companies to take this up if they don't want that person from council to come and deliver that. So again, we're just trying to find ways to best broaden our reach to community to further educate in the waste space. Can we do more? Absolutely, but obviously resource limited at the moment. So yeah, we're just doing as much as we can.
Thank you, Mr. Lobb. Councillor Chowdhury.
Yeah, no, through you, Mr. Chair, I would really request to council to do some digital form of education plan. So that will, like a lot of our people using Facebook, through that digital platform will, I think, creates more awareness. Yeah, thank you.
Noted. Thanks, Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Goff.
Would there be an education piece at the new residents' night this month?
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Through you, Mr. CEO, to Mr. Lobb.
Sure is. So look out for Hamish. He's got the dreadlocks. He's the education officer in our space, and he'll be more than willing to talk to everyone.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Goff. And to comment for myself, just with respect to that, obviously it's a cost to council and to ratepayers to sift through the rubbish, so to speak. So certainly the cost savings to community are literally in the hands of community to take a bit of responsibility for that, because the savings will be passed down the line. So yeah, very good. Any other further comments or questions regarding that item? If not, back to you, Councillor Black, for a right of reply. No, we'll put that motion then. All those in favour? And against? And carried. Thank you. The next item for consideration in the Infrastructure and Environment Committee is confidential. Can I please have someone move to defer item IPC 24/31 and IPC/24/32 to be dealt with at the end of the Corporate Services Committee in the confidential session? Councillor Black, second Councillor Chowdhury. Any questions or debate on that? No. All those in favour? And against? And carried. Thank you. As been moved to deal with the confidential items after Corporate Services Committee, I declare the Infrastructure, Planning and Environment Committee meeting closed, the time being 6:10 p.m. Thank you very much.
I now open the May 2024 Culture Community Committee meeting, time being 6:11 p.m. Item CCC 24/21, leave of absence. I have Councillor Mann, and we've got Councillor Dickerson on audiovisual link. Can I have a councillor move that? Councillor Chowdhury, second by Councillor Wells. Any questions or debate? All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. Item CCC 24/22, conflicts of interest. Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have two conflict of interest agenda item CCC 24/26 and CCC 24/28. A non-pecuniary less than significant. I'm volunteer of Oriscon events, but not holding any official position. Thank you.
Thank you,
I'm
Councillor
staying in the room.
Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to, oh, sorry, I haven't done this before. So I have, speaking to CC 24/28 and have a less than significant non-pecuniary interest, and just had some conversations around this, and we'll stay in the room.
Thank you. Item CCC 24/23, report of the Youth Council. Can I have someone remove the report of the Youth Council? Councillor Wells, second by Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Wells, do you wish to speak to that?
Not on this occasion, I'm sorry.
Thank
you.
Any other discussions or debate? I'll have a comment because I was there. It was really good to see some enthusiasm from the members that attended, because we're looking at a new youth strategy. So watch this space. I think it's all looking good. Thank you. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. Item CCC 24/24, report of the Social Justice Advisory Committee meeting on the 22nd of April. Moved by Councillor Wells, second by Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Wells, do you wish to speak to that?
Sorry, not on this occasion either. I wasn't at that one. Thank you.
Any other questions or debate? All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. Item CCC 24/25, Concept Dubbo Indoor Aquatic Centre. Can I have someone move the report of the Manager of Recreation and Open Space? Councillor Chowdhury, second by Councillor Black. Councillor Chowdhury, do you wish to speak to that?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just briefly, thank you, council staff, done a fantastic job. There was a lot of a conversation in the community. They would like to see this plan been done before, so it's now in public document and online, so people can have a look. But I'm not supporting a 65 million. There is some plan. It's not realistic, so we need to be a bit more realistic and make sure because Dubbo need a indoor pool, because we're getting a lot of I talked to a few swimming associations, and they really need to use indoor pool because we have a lot of talent here. They had to leave Dubbo and go to other region to using this facility. So I will bring some amendment on the next council meeting, but yeah, I had to work out that one. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or debate? Councillor Black.
Thank you. Yes, I'll be interested to talk to Councillor Chowdhury before the next meeting around his amendment. We know that the RSL pool, especially over winter time, is chock-a-block. You have to wait to get a swimming lane there. $65 million or even $20 million, that was a few years ago, so you can only imagine what the price would be now on some of these options. But the quickest way for us to get an indoor heated pool would be to chuck a big shed over with retractable sides over the existing pool, drop the sides down during winter, get one of those electric heat pumps, heat the water from solar panels, and take the sides up during summer, so you're effectively still swimming outside, and just make it happen. Even if you section off the middle of the pool, like lots of places do, I've looked at around the state, where they section off the middle of the pool and just have like a 25 by 25 heated pool, something that would actually be affordable for the community, but also doable, not sort of pie in the sky. Thank you.
Any Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, Madam Chair, I have a question. Like, in the report, they're showing like there was a business case has done. So, just through you, Madam Chair, is there any business case ready for looking for grant?
Through to the CEO.
I'll throw firstly to Mr. Arms.
Thank you, Councillor Shibley, through you, Madam Chair. Not to the level required to get the grant money to the level that these projects will require. So really what's in the report is pretty much the level that we've got to this point in time.
Any other comments or debate? Oh, we have the motion before us. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. Item CCC 24/26, the 23-24 Round 2 Spark Grant Assistance Report. Can I have someone move the report? Moved by Councillor Ivey, second by Councillor Black. Councillor Ivey, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Just very briefly, I noticed that the allocation there of money to those various applications, and that's terrific. But I do know that there was perhaps a couple of applications which weren't deemed suitable because the application wasn't filled in or didn't meet the guidelines correctly. And I just think that that's a pity. I note that Council is looking at revamping the whole of these community funding projects or sources of funds. And I think in some ways that probably can't come soon enough. I think it's good that we do look at revamping the terms of reference and the allocation of the money to try to avoid community groups being disappointed because perhaps because of their lack of knowledge or lack of initiative have not filled in the application form correctly. So I think whatever we can do to try to make it simpler and more transparent and more education amongst those community groups, the better.
Any other comments or debate? Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have seen like one of the community group has missed out again for they haven't done the equator. So I'll encourage these community groups to just make sure you have done your previous funded equatorial, and if you need any information, please contact council and just check and like submit your application so you're not missing out this grant. We really don't want to see anyone miss out because these community groups are doing fantastic job for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Wells.
I just wanted to echo Councillor Ivey's commentary there around it's a pity that there were so many people that were not successful, and one would hope that in the future that we would have customer support services to, if we're trying to build up our community, that would be really helpful to help anybody who's struggling with an application if they've not been able to complete it based on some minor issues. Not quite sure what they were, but echoing Councillor Ivey's content. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or debate? Councillor Wright.
Thanks, Madam Chair. It was only a comment just with respect to the acquittals report. It's good to see that information in those grant reports. And I see there's been a little bit of work done from 23 to now to sort of bring that back. But again, it's a really important part of this particular grant program, just to ensure that if council are handing money out to community, that community they play their part as well and ensure that they meet their requirement to fulfil the obligations. But not only that, just having that understanding if there is a community group group out there that does have outstanding acquittals, they're not going to be able to apply for further funding until those acquittals are actually finalised. So it's really important for those community groups going forward that, again, they fulfil their obligation to ensure that they can get access to further funds. So.
Thank you. Any other comments or debate? Councillor Ivey, you have a right of reply.
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. Item CCC 24/27, Sister City Council Delegation Visit Overview. Can I have someone move the report? Councillor Chowdhury, second by Councillor Wright. Councillor Chowdhury, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other comments or debate? All those in favour? Oh, sorry. I'm quick. Councillor Ivey.
Only just to, I didn't go on the trip, but look, from what I read and what I hear, it was very worthwhile. And the fact that councillors gave up their time and out of their own out-of-pocket expenses to meet the costs of going on that trip, I think it's terrific. And on behalf of myself, anyways, but that I would thank them for that. There is just one thing on page 42 of that report. It does say that the visit to South Korea was from the 27th of March to the 30th of November. And I don't think that was quite right. So maybe that in the final report that, or in the minutes, that date, the 30th of November, should be corrected. Thank you.
Noted. Any other comments or debate? Right. All those in favour? I declare the motion carried. Item CCC 24/28, Submission Expressions of Interest, the 2024 Dream Festival. Can I have a councillor move an alternative motion? Councillor Chowdhury? Or which one's going to move it?
Madam Chair.
Councillor Ivey.
I have the motion that that reads that that the Dream, it's option 2 presented there, that the Dream Festival will be placed in abeyance. I won't read the whole motion, it's in the business papers there, but that the $40,000 be allocated to the 24-25 budget and be reallocated equally between the Spark Support Grant and the Event Assistance Program. That the CEO review the financial assistance policy in time for the 25-26 budget process with the intent of simplifying that policy along the lines of what I alluded to earlier, and that the CEO develop a regional event strategy as proposed in the 24-25 operational plan, outlining the levels of support available from Council to events with a clear intent of attracting and supporting both locally produced and flagship events.
Can I get a seconder for that one, please? Councillor Etheridge. Councillor Chowdhury, declare your conflict of interest, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will declare CCC 24/28 non-pecuniary less than significant. I'm volunteer of Oriscon events, but not holding any official position. And I'm staying in the room. Thank you.
And Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So if for CCC 24/28, I'm declaring a non-pecuniary and less than significant conflict, and have some interest in this process, and will stay in the room. Thank you.
Is there any other comments or debate? Councillor Wright.
I hadn't put my hand up, Madam Chair.
I'm telepathetic.
Look, maybe just a bit of clarification on that particular motion. That item D refers to the regional event strategy. I'm guessing just that's a strategy more around our LGA than a region, but maybe a bit of clarity around what that might look like. I know it sort of spells out a couple of things in there.
Through to the CEO.
Mr. Arms.
Sorry, Councillor, I just saw someone enter the public gallery up there, and I was trying to get the attention to let them in, and I missed your question, please. Can you repeat it?
Thank you, Mr. Arms. It's just with respect to item D in that motion moved by Councillor Ivey with respect to the regional event strategy, and just maybe a bit of clarity around what that might look like. I know there's a couple of lines that make that sort of very briefly point out maybe what that might look like, but maybe just a bit of clarity around that regional event strategy itself. I'm guessing it's for our LGA rather than the region, potentially.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. We're still working on the title. what we don't have at the moment is a clear strategic direction for how our event support is managed, communicated throughout our community. So we're really relying on our vast experience of our talented staff to guide us, but we know the best practice and the high performing councils have a clear event strategy. So they identify what priorities they want to achieve, what priorities they want their event support to achieve, and they have different tiers of support and funding and categories, and they filter all event applications through that assessment process. And so the community learn what the priorities are. The council is clearly communicate to the community what the priorities are, and together we go there. We don't have that at the moment with Dubbo Regional Council, and the event strategy that we're proposing seeks to do that. It will flow out of the new Spark. So that's our cultural plan. So that concludes at the end of the next financial year, so 30th of June, by which time we will have produced a replacement plan, and the event strategy will flow from that.
Thank you.
Any other comments or debate? Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, Madam Chair. So is option 2 is mean like we are not holding Dream Festival? Yes.
To
So,
the board assumes so.
Correct. So O'Brien, it's paused. Is the short answer.
Councillor Chowdhury.
thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I'm completely against of this alternative motion because I know all my fellow councillors already received a lot of phone calls and a lot of emails from the community. They don't want to see Dream Festival being died. So I'm going to encourage my fellow councillor to choose option 1 and defeat this motion, because there's a lot of like a community, like they have a passion to see like a Dream Festival happening, and whereas like the community groups already submitted that EOI, and we can't now like stop the Dream Festival. And yeah, I've been meeting with many people last few weeks, and there was a lot of like a criticism if gonna get my fellow councillor if they choose option 2. Thank you, and I'm vote against this one.
Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Look, it's obviously it's a tough one we're talking about here. It's a lot of people have an emotional attachment to the Dream Festival and operation of the event over the last 10, 12 years, 13 years. And certainly council took it on and have operated it just that once. And council's been out to an expression of interest. I know there's been a lot of commentary through social media or conversations, whatever it might have been, but through the EOI process, it didn't indicate that. There was one that come through with some substance, and I don't believe there was another. So in one instance, we do have community that are telling us one thing, but on the other hand, on one hand we have another. So if community were genuinely keen on playing a part in the Dream Festival, I would have expected to see a little bit more interest through an EOI process, and unfortunately, council didn't see that in this occasion. So, thanks, Madam Chair.
Any other comments or debate? Councillor Black.
Thank you. Yeah, just to echo what Councillor Wright said there. Without council running it, we really don't have a viable partner. I note the comments there that we were emailed today from Orascon, who put in a bid to run it, was sort of like, oh, we'll do it, but sort of real burden on us under sufferance sort of thing. That wouldn't be their preferred option. So these sort of events, you probably really do need council to run them with the power of the organisation behind them to have all of that onto a volunteer community group at this time doesn't seem like a viable option, unfortunately. And I note in the Orascon comments there today that they wouldn't be looking at running the lantern parade because they're limited with scope and volunteers and what they're able to do, of course. So that's fully understandable to tie it in with other activities that they have on their agenda. But I'd really like to see the lantern parade. go again. Everyone loves it. The kids love it around the school. We've got a heap of people out there. So that might be something when we look at this next year that we can look at how can we get the Lantern Parade going again in a functional form, because it's really good for the community. Thank you.
Councillor Chowdhury.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, I have meeting with Creative Assembly and few other community groups. They're not happy with the way council have processing this EOI. That's why they have a recommend some. They send an email and put some recommendation, and through you, Madam Chair, to the relevant staff, how you going with when community groups like a Creative Assembly, they recommend some sort of alternative options. Is that been considered? Thank you.
Through the CEO.
Well, yes, but I guess we had an AOI that we asked for response, and yes, they've put an alternative proposal. But for example, one's calling out to employ a festival director. Well, that's far above and beyond the $40,000 that it currently costs. So that would require a lot more allocation of resources in the annual budget to make that real. And I guess that we did choose the words purposely in abeyance, because we're not saying it's completely dead. It's being paused to recognise that someone or a group may want to work to bring it back together. But I'll throw to Mr. Arms for more detail.
Thank you, CEO, through you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so the Kraken Group provided the submission. So they provided it in an initial submission, which wasn't successful. What we didn't receive it. That was what led to the second opening of the EOI process. And I think in that submission, Councillor Chowdhury, they talk about some of the things that you just raised then, in which the CEO touched on. In the actual submission that was received with Orascon, it's a different submission where they don't go into that level of alternative suggestions. So our intent would be to talk with Kraken, but we were seeking guidance from the council tonight before doing that. Their submission, Kraken, clearly states that they're not in a position to run it, and I completely understand that. Like, running an event to the scope and responsibility of Dream is a big responsibility. And these are volunteers. They've got their own lives and commitments, as we all know, and you certainly know as councillors. So I fully understand the pressure that them and certainly Orascon are under. We want to maintain good relationships with both. We want to support both. The plans that we have for improving our strategic event support mechanisms and our cultural strategic directions, with a review of our financial assistance policy, is all focused on getting the money out to these groups, supporting them grow their own events, and by in so doing grow that cultural and event and community effort throughout our community over the next 5 to 10 years at least. That's the vision. Thank you.
Any other comments, or Councillor Dickerson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm intrigued with one part of the Dream name and the Dream logo, etc. If this goes ahead and we go this way and then resolve it at the council meeting, does that mean that the Dream logo, the Dream name, would be available for a group if some group came forward in the near future, whether it be this year or next year, putting into abeyance for a period of time? Not sure how long that might be, but if someone came forward to use that, where do we stand with our name and the logo?
Through to the CEO.
I'd have to check on the IP of the logo. Council did a reboot of the logo. I think 21 is my memory. So I would imagine we would have the IP on the actual logo that way. The name Dream or Dream Festival, I'd have to clarify whether that was registered to protect that intellectual property. I'll take that on notice, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, CEO. And I suppose to you, Madam Chair, again, it might just be something to keep in the back of our mind that if there was an organisation that did want to use that, having some way that we could still allow an organisation that we would approve to use that, given that, again, I'm not sure which way this vote's going to go, but if it does go, we would leave it in abeyance, having the ability for someone to still use that, because more years it's left alone, the harder it is to rejuvenate that.
Thank you. Any other comments or debate? Got the motion before us. Right of reply from Councillor Ivey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, just to reiterate really that a couple of the comments that are made, that we do have a lack of a clear event strategy, and this whole dream thing, if you stand back and look at it, it's been a bit it's been far from satisfactory, the process that really illustrates that that we need to rethink it. We need to think the event strategy, and we need to implement it on a broader basis of more clarity there. And the only way I think we can do that is to put the festival in abeyance while we work through those alternatives.
Thank you. All those in favour? All those against? I declare the motion carried. As there are no further items, I declare the Community and Culture Committee meeting closed at the time being 6:36 p.m.
Welcome to corporate service.
Do you have your card, Councillor?
Oh, sorry. Welcome to Corporate Service Committee meeting on 9th of May. I now open the May 24 meeting at the time being 6:37. The first item is CCC 24/15 leave of absence. At this moment, Councillor Mann have leave of absence, and Councillor Dickerson is attending via audio visual link. And can I have someone to move? Councillor Black and seconded by Councillor Wright. Any question or debate? All this in favor? I declare it's carried. Next item is CCC 24/16 conflict of interest. Does anyone have any conflict of interest? None. Next item is CCC 24/17 report of the Villages Committee meeting held on 27th of March 2024. Can I have please have someone move the recommendation of the report of the Village Committee? Councillor Ivy, and seconded by Councillor Wright. Councillor Ivy, do you want to speak?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any question or debate? There's none, so all those in favor or against? Yeah, I declare the motion carried. Next item is CCC 24/18 monthly reporting snapshot for councillors April 2024. Can I have please someone to move the recommendation of the report of the Corporate Strategy Performance Coordinator? Councillor Wright, and seconded by Councillor Trees. Councillor Wright, do you wish to speak?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I know we comment on this each month about how interesting some of these statistics are, and I know a lot of my fellow councillors flick through them, and I look at the domestic waste, the mixed waste tonnes per month, and from February to March, we dumped nearly 200 tonnes of mixed waste running through that facility just in a month. It's, which is nearly 20 or 30% more from month on month. I'd probably just a comment more than anything that I just don't understand where we can get an extra 200 tonnes of rubbish running through there. Oh, maybe the staff might be able to elaborate on maybe some of the trends they see there. I don't know what drives that, but it's a significant difference.
Through you, Mr. CEO.
Mr. Wallace.
Yeah, I couldn't comment on any of the reasons for the trends beyond. I think the report that was considered by council earlier in the evening about the curbside bin audit, it certainly does indicate that the general waste red bin, curbside bin, certainly has a large proportion of contaminants in it that you would consider better suited to ending up in the green bin or the yellow recyclable bin. So that would be my comment. There's a lot of scope there to get that number down. The city's growing, but I don't think that fully accounts for the whole lot. I think one other comment I would make is that we're seeing that there's scope for those heavier recyclable, I think they're called CDC bottles that people can actually either put in the recycling bin or take and get money back as well. And that would be something further we would encourage.
Any other questions? Councillor Ivey.
Yeah, perhaps just following on from what Councillor Wright said. Again, if you look at the raw figures, if that's the right word, that the domestic waste in quantity is increasing, but the amount going to recycling and redirected from landfill is decreasing, and that's obviously a concern. That just the trend just seems to be in the wrong direction. I hear comments here that it's connected with it's related to the curbside collection, but it's just it's something that really is of importance, I'm sure.
Any further comment or question? Councillor Wright, you have a right to reply.
No, thanks, Mr. Chair.
Sorry. All this in favour? Oh, Councillor. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yep. All.
Do it again.
All this in favour? Yep. Against? No. Motion carried. Next item is CSC 24/19 update of the notice of motion calling for action to reduce rate of crime in the double local government area. Can I please have someone to move the recommendation of the report of the Chief Executive Officer? Oh, Councillor Black, you have an alternative motion? Yeah.
Yes, I do. Alternative motion. It reads, 1, the same, that the correspondence from Council to New South Wales Government regarding community concern as detailed in this report be noted, and 2, that the CEO liaise with and facilitate local Aboriginal community organisations to apply to the Australian Government Justice Reinvestment Programs.
Can I have someone second it? Councillor Wright, yeah. Councillor Black, do you want to speak?
Oh, just very briefly, thank you. I'll just get the letter back there. We wrote to the federal government back some months ago and got a reply back from Mark Dreyfus, the Attorney General, and one of the things there was that there's $69 million over 4 years for the National Justice Reinvestment Program, and we need to be tapping into some of that, and the way that we can do it in our community is the last paragraph reads as follows of the letter. The government, federal government, is supporting community-led applications through the National Justice Reinvestment Program, which can be lodged year-round. First Nations communities across Australia, including from the Dubbo region, are encouraged to apply for funding through this open, non-competitive grant process. So anything that we can do as a council to be intentional to try and point people towards some of that $69 million, which would be great to go into all sorts of justice reinvestment pilot programs in our communities here in the LGA, would be fantastic. That's the role of council in this whole crime debate. As I've said, I watched the Crime Summit motion debate back the other day from 12 months ago, and it was all about council advocating for extra resources for our community, and this would be a part of that. We do have a role to play, and anything that can be done, that's a real area of need in our community, is to get these justice reinvestment dollars in, and especially into the First Nations communities, and try and help people, kids especially, stay out of the criminal justice system. And there's a lot of money there, and we can do a lot of good in our community if we can hook up some of these community groups with the funding. Thank you.
Any other question or debate? Councillor Walls and Councillor Ivey.
Yeah, just a question, a comment and a question. I noticed on the 26th of March 2024, it's on page 49 of this of our papers, where the Mayor wrote to Kate Washington. No, I beg your pardon, I'm on the wrong one. I'm sorry, for page 48, the one before. Wrote to Michelle Rowland, the Minister for Communications, about the posting of really criminal behaviour onto social media and TikTok and the like. That one, it seems to be a very valid point that drawing it to the minister's attention. Again, I understand that with the recent problems with the vandalism at the facility at Pioneer Park in Wellington, the kids there set fire to it and filmed themselves on TikTok in front of the blazing building. Now, that just seems to be wrong. Why? I think that the fact that social media are allowed or allow that to happen is just wrong. And I presume we haven't yet had a response back from the Minister, but I'll be very interested in following up what response we do get, and if we don't get one, again, contacting her office again.
Thank you, Councillor Ivey. Councillor Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just curious about the addition in terms of it being to engage First Nations providers, which you're totally interested in. There's two things that I was hoping to sort of just clarify is if there's an expectation that a First Nations organisation applies for funding, I'd like to see there be a bit more, a larger range to that, where there could be potential consortiums, so that it enables a fair opportunity to be able to secure some funds, because there's not a lot of First Nations services around. There are some that might not have the capability to write a tender. So I'm just thinking about that process. So I hear what Councillor Black is saying, but I favour the opportunity to do consortiums. And I also have a concern that the community might think that we're putting this in all that I know that it's a good intent, but I don't want the community to think that the crime coming in our community is just from First Nations people, because that is not the case. Thank you.
Wells. Any further comment, questions? Oh, Councillor Wright, yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Just following on from Councillor Ivey's comment, and actually, this is testament to the fact that a letter from our small council out here can make a massive difference, because only a couple of weeks ago, New South Wales became the second state to introduce additional 2-year posting and boasting penalties on motor vehicle theft and break and enter offences. So that's something that has been passed or introduced into Parliament only a couple of weeks ago, and that's no doubt all come from the back of a letter from Dubbo Regional Council. Maybe.
Although that was through New South Wales, I noticed the Mayor's letter was to the Federal Minister. Did we also write a letter to this? I mean, it'd be great if we did, but did we also write a letter
Through
to
that, yeah.
the State
Yep.
Parliament?
Yep.
I'm not aware of that. Might have to pass that one through to the Chair.
Through Councillor Wright, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, that Councillor Ivey just made that question with respect to whether it was written to the federal government or New South Wales. I'd imagine there's different jurisdictions, but maybe a bit of clarity through you, Mr. Chair, to maybe the CEO.
Yeah, through CEO, Mr. CEO.
Whilst the New South Wales government has the laws to penalise people, what the letter, and I'll throw to Mr. Mayor because we did discuss it, is the communications authority, the legislation related to communications is federal jurisdiction, and that is where the power is to, not enable poor behaviour by penalising or indeed banning certain social media companies that make lots of money out of this poor social outcome.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Any further comment or question? Oh, yep. Councillor Dickerson.
Yeah, sorry, I'm happy to comment a little bit further on that. Certainly, Councillor Ivey is correct. That particular letter did go through to the federal government, aligned with what the CEO was discussing there, to come at it from a different angle, maybe not necessarily coming at it from a law and order perspective, but coming at it from a communications perspective, to put some onus on the large tech companies to take that sort of content down. And one of the discussions we had at Parliament House today was something that I learned, that apparently is one of the other trends that's happening now, is a point score system that people are using on social media, and you score various points for things that you post on social media. The highest scoring points is by getting into someone's home and taking a photo beside the bed of someone sleeping in the bed of you in the photo, and that scores you the most number of points in your social media game that you might be playing. So there's certainly, again, if social media companies don't allow that content to be posted, then there's no attraction for people to be posting that. So the focus of that particular letter was certainly the federal government, but there have been previous discussions with the state government as well. So I suspect, Councillor Wright, that the changes that were made were not as a direct result of communications from Dubbo, but probably as a direct result of many communications from many councils behind the scenes with the state government, and obviously the state government looking at their own data and seeing some of the things that are occurring there. So I think some of those communications behind the scenes do have impacts and do have effects. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Dickerson. Is there any further comment or question? Councillor Black, do you want to write your reply?
Thank you, Chair. Just very quickly, with regards to who will be approached to apply, it's according to the funding guidelines. So looking at the funding guidelines that were sent out by the Federal Attorney General, it specifically mentioned their First Nations communities in his letter. So that's just whatever the funding guidelines have been set up. So we kind of, as a council, really are constrained by the funding guidelines. Obviously, we can't get around that. The post and boast stuff announced by the Premier, I think that was on about the 11th of March or something like that. And our letter to Michelle Rowlands from Council was on the 19th of March. So unless the Premier was sort of like thinking ahead, week and a half ahead of the game. But it's a huge problem, and the tech companies, Twitter, not so much. Kids probably aren't using that, but WhatsApp and whatever else, TikTok that they use, thank you, is worth more money. I'm not current anymore. Instagram, Facebook, MySpace, Bebo, all of those sort of things that really do need to have a good hard look at themselves and be reined right in. But justice reinvestment, there's a huge opportunity there for diversionary programs, and really stop kids from getting on the wrong track, give them stuff to do in town, and that's something as a council we can really advocate for more resources in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Black. So all this favour of this amendment? Alternative motion, sorry. Yeah. Yeah. And against? Yeah. No. So I declare this amendment become motion.
Just declare it carried.
Oh, declare this carried, sorry. Next item is CSC 24/20, dedication of public road and registration of lease River Street, Dubbo. Can I please have someone to move the recommendation of the report of the manager, property and land development? Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Black. Councillor Wright, do you wish to speak?
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Obviously, happy to support this. Seemingly, all parties that are being affected by it have been consulted, and it seems to be genuine consensus. I'm just really keen to see this Dubbo Sports Hub progress. It's been talked about for many, many years, and this is just another piece of the puzzle that just has to happen sooner than later. So I'm happy to support it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Any further comment or discussion? There is none. All this in favour? I declare motion is carried. The next two items for consideration from infrastructure and planning and environment are deemed to be confidential. Under Section 10A, the Local Government Act, the next two items being IPEC 24/31 and IPEC 24/32 have been identified as likely to be discussed in a closed session of council. Can I now please someone to move us in confidential session to deal with this confidential item. Moved by Councillor Black and Councillor Gough. Yeah. We have had no application from members of public to make their representation regarding whether the meeting should be closed to the public. Do any member of the public gallery have any comments make regarding this proposal? There is no one. So any question or debate? All this in favor? I declare motion carried. The streamline will now be turned off, and any member of the public will be asked to leave the chamber. The chamber will be reopened and the live stream is restarted after deliberation of these matters. The committee returned to the open session at 7:10 p.m. Welcome back. I now ask the manager corporate governance to read the resolution from the confidential session.
Just throw me for a second.
Mr. CEO.
Yep, so we've just had a change in process. We'll hold these up instead of reading them. We'll hold these up on the live stream, Mr. Chair, and then people can read them at their will rather than hear the resolutions.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. There are no further items for consideration of the Corporate Service Committee. I declare the meeting closed and time being 7:11 p.m. Web streaming has been now completed. Thank you for your attendance. Thank you.